So there you have it, and here now is Senate President, Mr. Don Williams. Nice to see you here. I hope you had an easier time getting here than last time you were scheduled to be on the show.
Yeah, well, it's different seasons. So
different, yeah. You were on the way here, and someone sideswiped your car in Hartford, and it was kind of a mess, but you're okay.
Luckily, it was not serious, and we're ready to move on.
And Hartford Police caught the guy.
That's my understanding.
Excellent. All right, so talking about now, though, the budget crisis and your budget plan. You call this an honest attempt at a budget. You criticized Governor Rell for coming out with a budget that was $2 billion short. You said that back after her budget address, and now they are saying, okay, we were short and what we put on the table. My first question to you, though, is what Chris Healy said in the piece that you just heard, having to do with your tax increase. He says that this is the biggest tax increase in Connecticut since the 18th century under your plan.
I'm not familiar with tax increases in the 18th century, but I do know that what Chris Healy forgot to say was the Democratic budget has more cuts in spending than any budget in Connecticut history. We cut $1 billion in year one, more than Governor Rell. We cut $1.4 billion in state spending in year two, more than Governor Rell. The important thing is that we have a budget that's balanced. Governor Rell's budget is not balanced. It's actually almost $3 billion out of balance. And the Republican budget that legislators have come out with recently also does not balance. It's hundreds of millions of dollars short. So we're open to other ideas. We don't enjoy the choices that have been given to us in these hard times with declining revenue around the country, every state facing tough choices like we are. If folks can find a better combination that honestly deals with the deficit, fine. We're open to that discussion. That's fair. But let's at least be honest with the people of Connecticut and deal with the real fiscal challenge and not pretend, as the governor's budget does or as the Republican legislative budget does, that they have dealt with it when they're, in some cases, billions of dollars short.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from your budget proposal, and this is what we have here. I just grabbed a few of them, actually based on an Associated Press article, but you're saying that your budget proposal closes an $8.7 billion hole, spends $164 million less than Rell's plan, raises income taxes on couples making more than $250,000. Now, this tops out, from what I believe, at 7.9% for those earning more than $1 million, correct? So, in essence, this is kind of like your millionaire's tax, something that's been talked about for as many years as I've been covering the Capitol. Page 2, though, you're saying this, that your plan has a 25% cut in management jobs at DCF. Is that still on the table? This is for, again, managers. But you do restore funding for various commissions, including the Permanent Commission on the Status of Women. You restore funding for watchdog groups, including the Child Advocate, the Health Care Advocate, and the Consumer Council. We have 2 of them on our show. Let's talk a little bit about these commissions, though, because I have heard from some folks that some of them are a joke, and that all they really do is get paid 6-figure salaries to write book reports. Would you agree with that?
We're cutting those commissions by 20%. So if folks are saying we're not touching these commissions, that's absolutely wrong. Watchdog agencies like the Child Advocate and the Health Care Advocate actually help us save money and spend state money wisely. If we didn't have the Child Advocate, who could sort of pierce the veil of confidentiality that DCF operates under, we wouldn't have found out about misspending of funds over the years and mishandling of cases that has actually cost the state of Connecticut money. Now, that's an agency that spends $900 million a year. They need some accountability. And you're absolutely right. We cut 25% of the management positions in DCF because with our investigations, in an effort to reinvent government and make it more efficient, we realized there are too many layers of bureaucracy, and it was time to move in, reinvent that agency, and take out unnecessary bureaucracy.
What do you have to say, though, about the income tax deal? Because that's what people are fired up over. The fact that the income tax right now is at 5%, you want to raise it in different incremental levels depending on how much you make, anywhere from, what, 5.25% to 7.95%. Some would say, Sean Hannity, the Republicans, some folks I would hear, now is not the time to raise taxes. You raise taxes on the rich. It affects jobs on the lower level. How do you defend that?
Well, first of all, I would say that no one enjoys raising taxes, and we wouldn't have to raise taxes a penny in the Democratic budget if we used the same out-of-date budget projections that Governor Rell has used, because we cut more than Governor Rell. We cut more than her Republican budget on the Democratic side, so we wouldn't have to have any tax increases at all. The difference
so are you
is...
saying they're making you guys look like the bad guys, and you're doing the real work?
Well, that would be one interpretation, because the difference is we're using the nonpartisan Office of Fiscal Analysis estimate of the deficit. We're trying to level with the people. We're trying to say, look, here's what's really coming in terms of the serious economic downturn for Connecticut. We've got to get ready for it. Now, folks may not agree with all of our cuts, which are deep cuts on the spending side. They might not agree with all of our changes on the tax side, but put some ideas on the table that are honest, that get to that real deficit. Let's not have the political posturing where we pretend that $1 billion or $2 billion or $3 billion in deficit does not exist.
So when times get better, do you lower the income tax again? Is that something that Democrats would promise?
Well, in this time when we've got a lot of tough choices, and none of them are really easy, then on the tax side what we say is, look, if you've got folks at the margins where their taxes go up, and it may mean the difference of not being able to pay the rent or the mortgage at the end of the month, where it may mean the difference of having folks, you know, go without in terms of basic services, basic needs that families try to meet, versus somebody who's making $250,000 or more. I mean, if you're making $250,000 or more, then
What is it for single folks? Because that's for couples.
It's not going to be pleasant paying a little bit more in taxes. You're not going to miss a mortgage payment. You're still going to be able to put food on the table for your family. You're going to still contribute a little bit to that college fund because you want to send one of your children to college. It's not going to be life or death in terms of your particular family. We're trying to do this in as fair a way as possible in very tough times.
So what is it for single filers? Where does the income level go up?
The increases start at $250 and they go all the way up to they go all the way up to $1 million.
They do. Okay. And now I'm going to give your turn, because the Republicans have been throwing some serious punches at you guys since you've unveiled your budget. The Republicans have now come up with an alternative budget, which they claim gets the job done and it does not raise taxes. One of the big wow factors I thought in it, I was not there, but based on Christine Stewart's article, was the fact that they're calling for an 18-month wage freeze for state employees. Is that something you would sign off on?
Look, wage freezes, significant concessions. We want that on the table. Labor and the governor has already worked towards $630 million in concessions and savings. So, you know, we support the march towards serious concessions, and actually, you know, it looks like there's some very significant ones already in hand. So, you know, that's something that I think all parties are going to be able to agree on.
Last question. You wrote an op-ed piece, and you had talked about how the governor's proposed budget cuts would not work because you would lose stimulus money. There's a graphic there of what you wrote. What cuts could you find elsewhere then to lower your budget?
We found $1 billion cuts of alternative cuts in year one, $1.4 billion in year two. The governor and the Republicans want to borrow $350 million from energy funds. We found out they can't do that. We will lose federal stimulus dollars in addition to carrying out a policy that's just not good for energy in the state of Connecticut. So these are the types of things where we have to be honest with the people of Connecticut. Let's find real cuts, and if we have to look at the revenue side of the equation, let's do that in a fair way as well.
We're out of time. I want you to grade the Republican proposal, their budget.
I'd say it's incomplete, just like the governor's budget, because it's not balanced.
All right, Mr. Don Williams, thank you. And be careful driving home, okay?
All right, Shelley, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.